From romantic kisses to battery acid, as it turns out, almost anything can be dangerous when it comes to costuming. We're looking at 15 times actors felt like they were suffocating in their suit. Number 1. Who gave Dano the green light to wrap his head in cling film? Yes, you heard that correctly. Paul Dano actually wrapped his face in cling wrap for the Batman film. His logic being that the Riddler would have no way to leave any DNA at a crime scene. Just an hour into filming, he was seeing lights, but he didn't want to tell anyone because it was the first day on set, and he didn't want to be the actor complaining about a headache on day 1.
I just start to see white and colors, and my brain is...
He found himself Googling things like brain swelling while lying in bed that night.
You can't sweat. That's the issue.
The next day, they poked some holes in the cling wrap and it solved all of his problems. Pro tip, mention it on day 1. You can waste a whole lot more time reshooting if you gotta change things. Number 2. Not that we know much about the creepy crawlers, but we're pretty sure spiders don't drink through their eyes. Tom Holland has always struggled with his Spidey suit and has been the most vocal about it too. Taking off the mask is too much work, so when he needs a drink, he just gets somebody to pop out his eye sockets. This is a concern for Zendaya, who worries about what would happen if her boyfriend vomited inside the mask that is airtight and complicated to remove.
This is a genuine concern!
Apparently, it's a whole process to take the mask and helmet off, and it takes assistance. Number 3. Rob's really come full circle from sparkly vampire to gothic bat, huh? Robert Pattinson equated the Batman suit to almost torture. The whole thing was incredibly uncomfortable. The cowl makes its own expressions, and it has nothing to do with the performance you're giving. It's more like puppeteering than anything. You can have all the ideas in the world about how you want to play a character, and then you put the suit on and it's just straight back to the drawing board. Number 4. The itsy bitsy Spidey went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the Spidey out. Andrew Garfield accidentally waterboarded himself in his suit. He'd stated, "I had to get wet, and I just kind of dove in and did not realize that water on the mask made it impossible to breathe. So I was kind of, like, suffocating. I could not get any oxygen. I waterboarded myself." Luckily, his fight coordinator, Andy Armstrong, saw how much Garfield was struggling and jumped in to get him out of the mask immediately. Number 5. Imagine being stuck in an 88-pound suit, immersed in an unknown goo after over 6 hours in a makeup chair. Problematically, an entire suit was wasted in filming because it was buoyant once immersed in the oil/water/whatever else Skarsgård had to sit in. So, they had to poke holes all over the thing to stop him from floating. Adding to the weight of the costume was a hidden cooling vest that was attached to a portable refrigerator system. This saved him from having a stroke. Number 6. Turns out, Hollywood's most romanticized kiss was a total nightmare for Tobey. During that steamy kissing scene with Kirsten, you know the one, upside down in the rain, director Sam Raimi recalls water running into Tobey's upside-down nostrils, and that he was, kind of, drowning. Raimi said, but it was a kissing scene, so he had to pretend like it was a pleasant, sweet moment for him, when in fact he was semi-drowning. Number 7. You could say David was harboring bad feelings towards his costume. David Harbour, who played the namesake character Hellboy in the reboot, said the costume felt like a coffin. And said coffin gets really hot and claustrophobic.
And then I would get freaked out.
Getting the face of Hellboy on took about 2 hours.
The blending of the eye where the latex ends, that's all really hard stuff to do.
Number 8. You could say the horror crux of Rafe's decision-making came down to discomfort. After playing Voldemort, Rafe hated the makeup process so much because it was so uncomfortable, and he considered turning down other movies with such extensive makeup processes. Luckily for Rafe, it was the visual effects artist playing Got Your Nose with him, and not the makeup artists. Number 9. You can't itch a scratch, and you can't scratch an itch either. For Jessica, do you know what the part was that bothered her the most about playing Tammy Faye? It was the itching. The insatiable itching, because you truly can't scratch that itch in costume. You can't dig your nails under the prosthetics and just give it a good go. It would be enough to drive a person mad. Number 10. Perhaps Karen was feeling a bit nebulous in her costume. Karen plays Nebula in the MCU.
It's just a feeling of claustrophobia.
She felt that way because she was completely enclosed, comparing it to a second skin that's glued to her face. She finds it to be a weird sensation because the prosthetics stopped her from being able to express normally. It was a blessing in disguise, though, because she found the inability to move much stopped her from overacting. Number 11. This mask was the bane of Tom's existence. Bane's mask in The Dark Knight Rises was super freaking tight and made Morgan Freeman and Gary Oldman question just how fun it could possibly be for Tom Hardy to wear all the time. And they found that the thing was very claustrophobic. Hardy had said of it, "I had something to moan about, legitimately." Number 12. This sweat is boldly going where no sweat has ever gone before. Oscar Isaac found himself to be perspiring in the weirdest of places during filming for X-Men Apocalypse. The sweat was literally pouring into his ears, and there was absolutely nothing he could do about it. Imagine not being able to touch your brain with a cotton swab anytime you've got a slight ear itch. He admitted, "I didn't know when I said yes that was what was going to be happening. That I was going to be encased in glue, latex, and a 40-pound suit. That I had to wear a cooling mechanism at all times. I couldn't move my head, ever." Number 13. The 90s were a wild time. Remember eating batteries? Yeah, us neither. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Mr. Freeze in the 1997 movie Batman and Robin. What's so notable about his costume was that he had an LED light in his mouth, which looked cool when he spoke. However, problematically, the actor's saliva would seep into the batteries and the batteries would leak acid into his mouth. Talk about disgusting and dangerous. Number 14. At least Buddy has a good excuse for why he dusted his body with toxic materials. It was a simpler time. Another even older movie of note was The Wizard of Oz. Buddy Ebsen was originally slated to play Tin Man. However, the makeup he wore for the role turned out to be toxic aluminum dust. He wound up in the hospital and was eventually replaced by Jack Haley. Number 15. Ninjas are supposed to be quick and light on their feet. Nobody thought this through for the live action. And one more nostalgic film, the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie had a total of 4 actors feeling incredibly claustrophobic in their suits. They weighed about 48 pounds each, and once the helmets were on, you couldn't get them off, because the actors would need to get rewired into their costumes, which would take around a half hour. Despite these downright horrendous experiences the actors deal with, most of them would probably take on the role again. Except for maybe he who shall not be named. What suit would you be willing to deal with to play the role? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with us here at The Things.